it's Angie. Um, what we're going to do today is episode 2 of the Fellowship. Just to let you know, I do also do unboxings if you like any of that. Anyway, if you please click down like below before we start out and hit the subscription button. The sorry, the like button will take it and put it all over Facebook, and the subscribe button will make sure that you don't miss any of these videos. So without further ado, I am using the source book, The New Testament by Dr. Nyland. She is a Greek professor. She has studied their culture, their language, and she studied other cultures, but that's her main one. And she does work, and or she did work over in Australia, New England University. And ever since she was little, she's wanted to do this. So if you want to know any more about her or anything, just my first video was actually on her. You can use the King James version or whichever version you want to. There's really very slight differences, so that really doesn't matter. Tell me what you'd like to see on here. I'm going to go over a few things before we start into Matthew. And we're going to go over the first two chapters of Matthew. Okay, let's go. And okay, let's see here. Okay, first of all, the etymology fallacy. This is the wrongful assumption that the etymology of the word is the actual meaning. For instance, and cultures are each different. I live in Florida, so the slang language that we use here may not be the same that they use in Wyoming. So that would be something to think about when you're actually interpreting a different language. The other thing is the gender is grammatical. It's not biological. So that means the word itself, the words have feminine and male meanings. So that the words themselves are male and female. So the person saying them or the person they're talking to, it doesn't mean that they're male or female, it just means the word itself. So English, we don't usually do that. Each of our words, we have a word that means several different things. And then of course we've got words like they used to use when my daughter was a teenager. Shut up. And if you were from another country, you would think, wow, they are rude. But here, especially down here in Florida, it means wow. First time I heard that, I was same way, so I do understand that. I'm only reading pieces of this part to you. If you want to know more about what she says, I can read a little bit more into it. Otherwise, but I'm only going to use parts of it just to help understand where she comes through and why she felt the need to actually redo this. She actually went back to the papyrus paper, which is the paper they used back then, to translate this. And I'll tell you the reason for that in a minute. Also, the range of meanings possessed by a word, which I just went over. Our words have many different meanings, and also the translation, sometimes the meaning is at a loss. The translator traditionally decides to translate certain words and not translate them. What she means by that is there's a Greek word in the Bible that they translate angels because they didn't know what it meant. They didn't know what the word actually meant, and the word means messengers. The reason she knows all this is because these, in the 60s and 70s, the different papyrus papers they found them. And so it gave them an insight into more insight, deeper insight into the Greek language and their culture. So, but unfortunately, even though that came about, the people that are actually rewriting the Bible, and they keep rewriting it, they keep using the same dictionary they used back in the 1800s. So obviously, since they know more about it today, about the Greek culture and language, it would actually behoove them to actually do it again, to actually use those and go back and research those and how they are, which is what she did. And anyway, I think I just told you everything that was on this. So obviously the translations are not going to be 100%. Now some of them, you can tell, like, I'm going to go off center here for a minute because me and my daughter just figured something out last night that we were discussing, and we'll go over it later in Matthew's. If we want to discuss it a little further, I'm willing to do that too. Anyway, if you read Revelations and you go back and read Daniel and Corinthians, and there's a few others where the end times are actually mentioned, and you read them, and there's this thing that a lot of Christians today, not all, because some of us believe it's going to happen at the end, which I am one of those. That's because there's so many texts in there that actually allude to the fact that we're going to be there, that we're going through it. So it can't be both ways. Either we're getting taken or we're going through it. Well, we don't get taken until the end. And then we get raised up to be with God, because he's making us a new earth and heaven and all that. That's what the Bible says. Oh, and just a little thing on that. I found out that right past Pluto, there is a new world forming. As we speak, it is forming. So that's pretty cool to know too. Anyway, what we found, because a lot of people believe in that they're going to get taken from this when the end times come, when Armageddon comes. Well, one of the reasons, well, besides going back and reading it, and there's a bunch of text alluding, or a bunch of scriptures alluding to the fact that we are going to be through it, go through it. It's also the fact, why is it in here? If he didn't mean for us, he's not warning us. This is what is going to happen. Be prepared. And I believe that's what he's trying to tell us, is to be prepared. And that's why it's mentioned so much in the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, because he's trying to prepare us. So, because we are going to be going through it, and we are going to get persecuted just for being Christians. Anyway, that's off. So, off on a tangent. Okay. Anyway, but that's what I'm talking about, some of those things. Another thing that they did is, if it was a female name, they changed it to a male. Now you got to remember, this is back in the 1800s, so they were biased, because women really didn't have a whole lot of rights. So their context of doing the Bible would have been off of that also. So that is another bias that goes through it. Anyway, I've got these dots on here, and I'm not sure, I must have wrote something on here or something, and it leaked through. That's not good. Anyway, I do, just to let you know, I do use these little things, my little color pencils, and I have my cheat sheet right here. Tells me what my colors are for. And so when I mark them, I can find things really, it's a lot easier. I can draw right to them. And if you want me to read more about the different, why she felt she had to do it, as far as the text and everything goes in the Bible that they, or I should say, the dictionary that they used, I can read a little more into it if you want to, but that's pretty much the whole set of it. It needed to be redone. Okay, now let's get into Matthew and the good news. Now, of course, Matthew, it actually says that he was a lawyer, and, or not, I'm sorry, not a lawyer, wrong disciple. He was a tax collector. And as a tax collector, he collected taxes from those below him and gave them to the state, but he only gave a portion of it to the state because he collected stuff from himself, because that was his job. That's what he did. I guess the easiest way to put it is like a landlord today. You own a house, well, they give you money for staying in said house, and you have to fix it up using a portion of that money. And also you pay taxes on it too, but still, you still don't give it all to the state because it's your house. Well, that's pretty much what they did. They went and they collected these tax papers, or however they did that back then, and then they would collect them from the people that were on the tax forms, so that because they had to pay that to the state or to the king. Okay. And it tells you about him, and a little bit about Matthew. And he did have a different name. He was also known as Levi. Okay. He did write the first 4 books of the Gospels. Those were all his. And he was Jewish, and he actually did these because he wanted to help fellow Jews, let them know that, hey, Jesus was here to save us. That is what he is. He preached love and to take care of one another. That was the biggest thing that Jesus brought. And that is one of, so, and if you think about it this way, if you have love and you're showing people love, it pretty much takes care of most of the commandments. Obviously, it doesn't take care of putting God before everybody else, which you should, because Jesus did preach that you should listen to the laws. Those were the laws. And there was 10 laws. Well, Jesus added one more, which is to love each other. Well, like I said, that kind of takes care of most of them. You're not going to want to steal from them if you love them. You don't want to hurt them. So there's a lot of things. You're not going to want to hurt them in any way because you love them. Are we going to? Yes. We're still in need of saving. And so yes, we still do bad things. We are human. Anyway, let's keep going. Anyway, part of the first chapter is built towards genealogy. So going from Abraham, I believe, Abraham to David, and then from David to Babylon, and then from Babylon captivity to the 14 generations of Babylonian exile to the anointed one. Okay, and there's 14 years in between each of those. So 14 is obviously a very special number, what it is, but it's 3, if you think of it, 777, 3 times 7, but 14, or what am I doing? I can't even multiply right now. Okay, 2 times 7 is 14. Okay, anyway, 14 is obviously a special number because it's mentioned. Usually something that's mentioned means something. As of right now, I have no idea what, 'cause we gotta get into the chapter a little more. I'm possibly even into the other books before we figure out what that means. I found out in the Bible sometimes that happens. You're reading a few chapters ahead or a few books ahead, and then you go, that's what that meant. I can read this another time and still get more meanings out of it. So it's obviously great. That's why I want to learn from you too. So please comment. I would love a discussion with you, because we can learn from each other. And honestly, I just want to get to the truth of the matter. And I believe that's what you want too. So we both may or may not agree with each other. And either way, then that's fine too. We're grown-ups, we can do that. Anyway, we all know about Jesus. Jesus was born to Mary, who we believe was a virgin. However, the Bible actually, Matthew never actually said that she was a virgin. He just said that she was pregnant with God's child from the Holy Spirit. Okay, that's what he actually said. Joseph was a fair man. He was a generous man, obviously, very kind heart. He married Mary. He wasn't going to. He was going to actually break it off in quiet with her, because he found out she was pregnant, and so he's going to break up with her in quiet. However, he had a dream, and one of the messengers came to him in a dream and said, "Hey, no, don't do that. Marry her. This is God's child. He is special. Name him Jesus." Later on it says Emmanuel, God, and which means God is with us. So of course, because Jesus is God's son, so therefore a part of him would be with us. It's sort of like you having a child, and God forbid, but let's say you die. Well, your child still has the other spouse, their other parent, and so they still have a piece of you with them. So it's kind of, you have to kind of put some of these things into it. At least that's what I think. Okay. Well, anyway, of course, we know all about the messenger. So it goes on to talk about the Magi, which, according to the Bible, is 3 wise men. Well, apparently the Magi were special. It doesn't have 3 in it, by the way. It has Magi. And Magi were spiritual leaders back then, and they traveled with an entourage. So they weren't alone. They had many people that traveled with them. They were like the head of their family, and their family traveled. So they went and talked to Harold and asked him, hey, where is it? We have this dream and we're following this star. And they told him all that to Harold. And Harold's like, oh, please, when you find him, let me know where he's at. I want to go honor him too. So they did find Jesus, obviously, in a barn, in a manger. And so most of you know this story. It's a very simple story. It's actually one of the greatest stories, but it's not always known, but most people do. At least I would think so. Anyway, especially here in America, it's a very popular one. Anyway, obviously Harold wasn't going to do that. Harold was a very, very bad man. And it actually tells you in here a little bit about Harold. But first we're going to talk a little bit about the Magi. Because they were astrologers, they were dream interpreters, and they were spell casters. So they were, like I said, they were considered wise men. So they traveled to see Jesus and worship him. And they let him know about Harold, the king. And so they traveled. The Magi had a dream that night, and a messenger came to him and said, yes, no, you don't want to go that way. So they went another way home. They realized that that was not Harold's purpose at all. So after that happened, then Joseph had a dream. Joseph had a dream. Messenger came to him, told him, you need to leave, and you need to leave now, because Harold the king is going to come kill your child. Well, Harold did kill a bunch of children, and we're assuming they were under 2 years old from all the math that they went through. It doesn't exactly tell you in the Bible how old he was, but from references and the things that they know from history that were written down, so they know a few things about, so they figure he was probably 2 or under. So that, because of that, I didn't tell you this, they told Joseph to go to Egypt. The messenger told Joseph to go to Egypt. So when God sent another messenger down to him after Harold had killed all these children, and Harold had died a few days later, God sent another messenger telling him it's okay, go to Nazareth, you're safe now, your baby and your baby is safe. So because it is his baby, it is Joseph's baby, he is raising this child as his own. So yes, he is his his earthly father, I should say. He's not his heavenly father. He is his earthly father or stepfather, whatever you want to call him. He did raise him, or helped raise him, because remember, Jesus spent a lot of time with a lot of the priests and everything too, because he wanted to learn about his Father in heaven. He knew deep down, he knew he was God's son, and that was what he was supposed to be doing, is learning everything that was in this book and that was written down from his father. Anyway, Harold, he was a descendant of the Edomites, okay? Now, he wasn't really supposed to be. He killed a lot of people to get ahead in life, and he wasn't a very nice person. So that's how he became king, honestly, is what it's saying in here. And she goes on to say that when he murdered all those children, his son was part of it. His son, they had killed his son because his son was within that, he was just born. So his son got killed too. And so Harold died a few days later. But before that, he knew nobody was going to mourn him, because he knew he was a bad guy. Like, he wanted everybody mourning him. So he had several people arrested. Obviously, from the sounds of it, it was Jewish people, because he wanted all the Jews to mourn him. I'm going to put this in here real fast so we can get to the next ones, what I'm saying. Anyway, so he told his advisors, as soon as he died, he wanted them to be killed. So they were supposed to take him out and shoot all of them. And that is what they did as soon as he died. Am I saying the right person, the right name? Harold? Yes, it is Harold. I was just making sure I had the right name. Anyway, if I'm not, you can correct me. Don't feel bad about correcting me. I'm okay with it. And you can look all of this up. It's in history. So you can feel free to look it up. And if you find something else, please tell me. I'm more than interested to know about this stuff. And so they did. They killed these people. Well, his logic was a little bit screwed. Yes, they were mourning, but they were not mourning him. They were mourning their people that died. So I guess that kind of went over Harold's head, because he just wanted them to feel bad because he was dying, which is still, last act for somebody, that's just horrible. My opinion, that's just horrible. And of course, we know that it's not right. Okay, the last thing, because to end this one up, is we're going to talk about Nazareth. Okay, because according to this, there was really no mention of Nazareth on any map. So at first, they didn't even think Nazareth. They were like, it has to be another name. Obviously, it didn't exist because they can't find it on any map. Well, they actually did find it in another writing, and it was an inscription in They found it in 1962, an inscription in Caesarea Maritima, and he names, I'm pretty sure that's a female name, which names Nazareth as one of the towns where members of a priestly class settled after the destruction of Jerusalem in 135 AD, and the tablet is dated to the 1st century AD. So they went back and looked at it, and there was a small little town that they found that actually lived right there, and they had their own little spring. It was just a small waterway, but it was enough for them. It wasn't a very big place. It's just, like I said, it was a tiny town. And that actually ends everything to chapter 2. We'll read more later. And I hope you have a good night. Please leave me some comments. I would love to talk to you about some of this. All right, thank you. Don't forget to hit the like button to get this going so we get more people involved. And hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything. All right, I'll talk to you later. Thank you. Have a good night.